The biggest issue with Echoes of Wisdom stems from two areas: the Echo inventory and the sword mechanic. It is common knowledge at this point that the Echo inventory management suffered from the same issue that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom had. That being, it took too long to find the Echo or item you wanted due to having to scroll through all of them. Game designers have long understood that long pauses in the middle of action are bad for immersion and the flow of gameplay, and have since figured out that hotkeys are the way to go. What's baffling is that hotkey setting has long been included in the Zelda series, so I don't understand why it wasn't used here. This allows for quick access to your most useful items without stopping the action. Echoes of Wisdom didn't have anything like this, so when enemies approached, you either used the same echo you've been using to fight for the 100th time, or you patiently waited through your inventory for a particular echo, and then patiently waited for that echo to defeat the enemies. The lack of hotkeys made echo management a chore rather than a fun part of gameplay. And speaking of waiting for echoes to defeat enemies, I did not find this fun. Sure, it had its novelty at the start of the game. Summoning 2 bokoblins to fight more bokoblins was fun to watch, but eventually I got tired of waiting for the fight to end. Usually, I would just activate my sword and finish everything off myself. What I quickly realized was that the combat echoes and the sword mechanic were not sufficiently balanced. By that I mean the sword was way more useful in 99% of enemy encounters than echoes were, and there were little to no incentives to utilize echoes. The shake system made sword energy too available for me to be cautious with its use, and the DPS of the sword just makes it too overpowered to use any other means of attack. In order to properly balance the two methods of combat, the sword would have to be nerfed either in its damage output or in its energy consumption. And by that I mean make its energy drain faster, or make it harder to get said energy. Another option would be to improve the echoes in combat in some way, probably by making them more aggressive so the battle doesn't lag on so much while you run around. Now I can hear you now, but Jason, why not choose to not use the sword mechanic if you think it's so OP? Well, I could, but that's not the point. Balanced attack mechanics in games enhance the experience of all attack mechanics. If the echoes and the sword were properly balanced, then their use would be situational and a matter of player preference. I shouldn't have to choose to play in a particular way to make the game better. Making a game better is the job of the developer. If you played through Echoes of Wisdom, recall the final dungeon. In it, Link returns and you give him back his sword. He then becomes an NPC that follows you around, and the two of you must solve puzzles to make it through the dungeon. This was the most fun part of the game, and in all honesty, is such a missed opportunity. This type of gameplay should have been the entire game. It could have even been a multiplayer opportunity. Imagine hopping onto the game with a friend where you both have to work together to make it through the puzzles using both of your unique abilities, and in the entire game world built around this concept. For the life of me, I don't understand why Nintendo didn't do this. It seems like something right up their alley. Since I'm genuinely not a negative person, I do want to end on a note of praise for Echoes of Wisdom. Ironically, it has to do with one of the two mechanics I've been complaining about this entire time. If you've been reading my posts on X and following my content, you'll know I'm a big fan of mechanical storytelling. Mechanical storytelling is where gameplay mechanics reflect the narrative of the game. Like when a big knight in an RPG does more physical damage because he's big and strong, and your mage does very little physical damage because he's been studying magic his whole life instead of working out. Anyway, in Echoes of Wisdom, we finally get to play as Zelda. Now, we have to understand something about the character of Zelda throughout the series. While there are occasions where Zelda does indeed fight, she is primarily, and I also believe canonically, not a warrior. Her main function is a sage and a sort of divine counterpart to Link's physical prowess. I'll also point out that usually in games where both Zelda and Link play a significant role, both are needed to defeat Ganon. Neither of them is indispensable to the story. If Link can do everything Zelda can, or vice versa, then from a narrative standpoint, one of them is unnecessary. Whether intentionally or not, the story and gameplay of Echoes of Wisdom reflects this kind of mechanical storytelling. Zelda's primary attack is to not attack, but summon echoes to attack for her while she remains vulnerable. She is not a sword fighter, so therefore she must summon the spirit of the hero in order to physically attack her opponents. Nintendo seemed to understand that a Legend of Zelda entry where you play as Zelda, a completely different character from Link, needed to have a different sort of gameplay since the two characters are unique individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses. Again, I can hear everyone saying, "But Jason, what about the Hyrule Warriors games?" Well, they are outliers and don't follow any means of mechanical storytelling. Every character is as strong as every other character, and thus makes the majority of the characters from a gameplay standpoint superfluous. I understand why people like the Hyrule/Dynasty Warriors games, but the gameplay always felt very shallow to me. Mechanical storytelling might not seem like a big deal, but including it in your game can help deepen the player's understanding of the world we created and the characters we created. When Echoes of Wisdom was about to release, there was some discussion online on whether or not Zelda should use a sword. I don't know the motives of the parties involved, but it feels like those who wanted her to use the sword felt it would be a slight against her if she didn't. I never saw it this way because putting a sword in her hand would make this Zelda character less like Zelda and more like Link, leading to the dual negative effect of making the character of Zelda not her own character and diminishing the role of Link in the story. So there you have it. The two worst things about Echoes of Wisdom and one of the better things about it. Do you agree? Will you berate me about not liking Hyrule Warriors? Have I missed a key piece of Zelda lore? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for listening.